Hey, what's up everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to replace the handles on a wheelbarrow. I'm actually going to go ahead and make them myself, so we're going to have to get some material to size and then drill for all of these bolts. I see 4 bolts right now. I find one later, but we'll get into that later. I'm going to be using this cedar 2x4 in order to make my handles, and we're going to go ahead and get that to 60 inches long before we do anything else. Now you can use a different material if you want. Cedar is not the strongest, but it is rot resistant, so I'm going to go with it. The damaged wheelbarrow handles were about 1 5/8 inches by 1 5/8 inches, so a 2x4 ripped down the middle should get you pretty close to that. You get a lot of leeway with the size on these. I wouldn't go too small because you're going to go ahead and sacrifice integrity that way. So I'm over on the table saw ripping this thing in half, and then the smaller of the two sides, which is just going to be a tiny bit smaller, I'm going to use that one to position my fence, and then I'm going to run the bigger piece through real quick just to make sure that they're the exact same size. So now you can see I got 2 blanks that are ready to drill into and shape a little bit. So I've got 1 blank over by the existing handle that's about to snap, the one that didn't snap. So I'm taking some time to mark a little shoulder here where I want to sand the top to make it a nice grip. I'm not going to go as wild as they did, but I'm still going to make it nice for myself. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark the locations of the other bolts. I can afford to be approximate here because if you look at the bracket, there's actually quite a bit of wiggle room as to how to mount this thing. So basically, you can eyeball it, is what I'm saying. So now I'm going to use 1 blank and carry over my marks to the other, and then we're going to be ready to drill some holes. Get that last one done. So before I go ahead and drill the holes, I actually want to disassemble the old wheelbarrow. I want to get the old handles off of there, and I want to make sure I'm not neglecting anything that I'm going to have to do in preparation to mount the new ones. So I figured out that a 1/2 inch socket actually fits these pretty well, but I don't have the clearance to get at all of these because some of the bolts are too long, so I had to go back to an adjustable wrench anyway. A crescent wrench of the right size would do it. But no big deal, they were easy enough to get off. So now I'm taking the 4 bolts off, or the 4 nuts off of the bolts that hold this frame on. We'll go ahead and put that aside for now. You don't have to worry about the orientation because it is wider at one end. It's going to be obvious if you have it wrong when you go to mount it. So now we're going to go ahead and get this wheel off of here. Same deal, just got to take the nuts off the bolts. They are all the same size, which is a good thing. Always like to see that for projects like this. So these things are so far gone that I suddenly am feeling lucky that I have all the bolts. Hopefully you have all the bolts. They're all the same for me. They are different lengths though, so just something to keep in mind. This front brace is something that I didn't notice earlier, but I notice now, so I'm going to have to drill 2 more holes it looks like, but it looks like I can wait till later to do that, so I will. So now I have found a bit that is slightly larger than the diameter of my bolt. And sorry for the poor camera work here, but we're going to go ahead and drill some holes. This bit dropped right through. It was really, really quick. I know you can't see it, but the bit's already through, and there's the hole. So cedar, yeah, really easy to drill through. So we're going to give this bolt a quick test fit, and then go ahead and drill the rest of the holes real quick. Now it's time to fire up one of my favorite tools. It's going to be perfect for what we're doing here, and I am going to shape the handles. So I went ahead and started with making a shoulder, and now I'm just removing material along the corners and then rounding it. This is melting away because it's cedar, and this oscillating edge belt sander from Wen is pretty awesome. I'll drop a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. This thing can save you a lot of time depending on the types of projects that you're into. So I'm going to go ahead and thin these handles down a bit, remove a bunch of material, and then hand sand them after. I'm not going to go as wild as they did with the stock handles on this because I got long fingers and I like a bigger handle. So there you have it. These are all, well, mostly drilled and shaped, ready to roll. So we're going to get some boiled linseed oil on these, which is going to help preserve that cedar a little bit. Cedar is rot resistant, but it's still good to hit it with an oil-based finish or some kind of finish. This stuff goes on super quick. It could not be easier to apply this. Just apply it on in excess and let it dry a little bit and then wipe off any excess that's still there. So we are getting ready to mount these onto the wheelbarrow. So I got a little lucky in the sense that these 4 bolts, the first ones that I'm going to attach to these handles, kind of rusted in place and prevented them from falling out the backside or the inside of the wheelbarrow as I was doing this. It was really helpful. Otherwise, I might have had to put the wheelbarrow on its side and kind of feed the bolt through, you know what I mean? So luckily, this part was easy. So I got these 4 on and hand tightened just to get started here. Now we're going to start lining everything up, see if I was successful or not. But these are looking really great so far. I'm having no trouble getting the bolts in. Plenty of clearance with the bracket and with the bolt in each hole. Moving right along, we are going to go ahead and attach the wheel brackets now. So I'll go ahead and feed a bolt through and hand tighten it just to get things in place. Then we will go ahead and ratchet everything down at the end nice and tight. Hey, opportunity for me to save you some stress here. These brackets that I'm attaching right now, they just didn't look like they were lining up correctly, so I kept flipping them and they kept looking wrong, and I was actually glad I was making a video as I was doing this project because I consulted my earlier footage and they were wonky to begin with. So if your brackets don't really line up with your handles, don't feel like you put them back on wrong. They have all that clearance in them for a reason. They will most likely fit your handles just fine. But yeah, I flipped them a couple times and wasted some time, so look out for that. Right, I'm starting to get excited to use my wheelbarrow again, but before I can, we got to take care of this top bracket. So this is a guard for the tire, and it kind of just helps stabilize the handles together. Make sure you got a little play in the rest of the bolts before you attach this, because this could, you know, kind of crack the handles if the other ones are already tightened. So I'm going to go ahead and put this where I want it, friction fit it in place, and then score with my drill bit, and then punch on through. I'm going to follow the same process for the other side, lining up this side's hole, scoring on the other side, and then drilling through. This bracket is a little misshapen at this point, but plenty of meat on it, so we'll go ahead and keep using it. Alright, here we go, final tightening. I mentioned that I could get at some of these with the ratchet, but some of the bolts were too long to use the ratchet, so you'll see me use some other stuff. Here's a tip for you. I found that my chainsaw tool, because it's open on the other side from where it makes contact with the nut, was actually a good choice for tightening all these bolts. So if you got a chainsaw tool around, give it a shot. So moment of truth here, and things are looking pretty good. I can feel a little bit of play in the bracket, so I'm investigating a little bit, and I did notice that, remember I told you these were rusty? That rust also got in the way of these bolts seating, so look out for that. I just had to reseat that bolt and tighten the lugs on the other side again. No big deal. I got a bunch of hickory logs sitting at the bottom of the hill, so they should be a fine test for this wheelbarrow. Flying colors, man. No complaints. It's good to have the wheelbarrow back in service. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comments. I am interactive because our channel is still pretty small. But happy yard work. See you next time.